Hey guys, Jordan Norell here, making my daily video on circumcision, and today I'd like to talk to a phenomenon that happens sometimes when I'm protesting or when I'll be mentioning that I'm an anti-circumcision advocate. Certain men will sometimes respond, often quite angrily and defensively, and not in a wanting to have a conversation kind of way, that they're happy that they're circumcised, that they're fine with being circumcised, that they love being circumcised. And often I don't get to have a longer conversation with them, and so I'd like to present what my response to that would be here. So here it is. So first of all, I'd like to say to you, I'm really happy that you're happy that you're circumcised. I think that's great. Like really genuinely, no one should ever have to go through what I and many other men have had to go through of finding out things about circumcision and becoming extremely depressed, traumatized, and sometimes even suicidal over circumcision. It's truly horrific. I was once really happy with my penis before I really knew anything about circumcision, and I thought it was great, and I really loved it, and I wish that I could go back to that mental, emotional state. I'm really happy now. Physically, I mean, now I can do something about it, but I wish I could go back to that, and I've evolved a lot psychologically since then, and actually become a lot stronger than I was before I found out. But so far it hasn't been worth it. Nothing is worth the amount of pain that I went through, and I wouldn't wish that on the worst person in the world. No one ever deserves to be that traumatized and upset about circumcision. Secondly, I'd like to say, if you're happy with it and you think it's great, I'd question if maybe you don't actually know that much about circumcision and what it does, or about the foreskin. And I would encourage you to research and learn more, especially before making this decision for your child. First of all, you don't have to make that decision. The child can decide for himself when he's older if he wants to. But very few men do when they get older, because they realize that it's the most pleasurable part of the penis. It has the vast majority of the nerve endings. It has the Meissner's corpuscles in the ridged band and frenulum, which are removed and or badly damaged during circumcision. It has the gliding motion, which allows you to not need lube when you masturbate or when you have sex. Virtually no men who are, or very few men at least, who are intact need lubrication for either of those. And many more things. The foreskin has a lot of, it evolved over millions of years to give you the most pleasure, to make sex easy and natural. There's a lot of myths, that the foreskin's dirty. It's actually very easy to clean. And that it prevents diseases. It actually doesn't have any medical benefits. I could go into that, but again, you can research for it for yourself, and I would encourage you to, especially if you're going to have a kid. Or just don't do it. There's no need to do it. You don't even need to clean the child's foreskin. It doesn't retract until he hits puberty, and so you just wash it off with water like you would a finger. It's the easiest thing in the world, and he gets to keep his whole penis, which, as I'm saying, you may be really happy that you're circumcised, but the third point I want to put out there is that there are a lot of men who aren't, and just really stress this, that there are men who are extremely upset about circumcision, and a lot of them don't speak out because they're embarrassed or afraid, and they're often criticized when they do speak out. And I can't begin to describe how much pain these men are in. I'm working with some of them in therapy. A A lot of them don't get therapy, don't get any help, and it's really just horrific to see how much physical damage is done to these men and how much emotional pain they're in as well. Nobody deserves that. It's also excruciatingly painful for the baby. There's a lot of things. I mean, the more you know, the more you're against circumcision. So even if you're happy with it, which I'm really, really happy for you if you are, I think that's great. But I would take a second to think about, you never know who's going to be upset. I can promise you my parents didn't think I would be this way. And it's so just tragic to see how adult children relate to their parents. I mean, often they don't. They disown their parents. I've seen that. I've seen it where they just stop talking to their parents. I've done a huge amount of psychological work, and there's still, I think, some lingering part of me that hates my parents, and I don't want anyone to have to go through that with their children, because I think that number of people who are aware of this is growing very rapidly, and it's very likely that if you circumcise your son, he will see it as you having mutilated him. And so I'd really, really encourage you to think about the decision and not make that choice for him. Let him make it himself when he's old enough. Give him that right. It's a human right that everybody should be able to make choices regarding their own bodies, especially ones that there's no reason for someone else to make. So yeah, that was a little dark. Sorry, guys. I know you probably would just want to hear that you're circumcised and you're fine and you're great. And I support you in seeing yourself that way if that's how you choose. But just be aware that that's not going to be how everybody sees it, and there's room for different perspectives. So that's why we should really leave this choice up to children. So thank you for watching. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.